Okay, well, this might be a bit cheeky of me, but I've decided I think I'm going to do a read on Paul or Saul of Tarsus. Yes. I think we're hearing from the MAGA crowd over there, the evangelicals, Saul of Tarsus. Yeah, well, okay, they have their view of it. How dare I read on Saul of Tarsus? Paul. So let's see what the cards have to tell us about Paul. You know, I'm going to charge in where angels fear to tread. I have no trouble doing that. Yeah, well, okay. So let's see if we can shed a light and what was going on with Saul of Tarsus. What can you tell us about Saul of Tarsus or Paul in the Bible? So what we have from the past, bad health. Well, that starts off well, doesn't it? Okay, bad health. Okay, we're going. I rest my case. So if you're having bad health in the past, how is that fitting for, humanity, if that's what he's giving out? Yeah, not so great. So let's look and see what we have. Bad health. Oh, yeah, a deceiver. Okay. Crafty. That's not looking too good, is it? But let's see what else we have with that. Will the tarot redeem this at all? Or is Saul of Tarsus heading on the way out? Oh my goodness. So above it we have, he was in a mind of unhappiness, mental pain, bad health, a conniver that again charged forward with his actions and his mental drama. Now again, he's the one that says that women should be silent in church, etc. And so many people listen to Paul more than they do even Christ. So, my view on this is, yeah. So let's see what we have going now. We have the message, right? The messages he was putting out. For the future, okay? The messages he put out, which then they used in the future when they created, was it Charlemagne? Who was it that put the Bible together? And they got all these things together and they decided what they were going to put in. Well, they did this message of Paul for the future. It's what they were working on, what they wanted people to believe, the spin that they wanted to put in there. Okay, because they were unhappy with all the seeds of the harvest. They weren't so thrilled with the messages of Christ when it came to freedom, when it came to equality, etc. So what did they do? They put their little gem, Saul, Paul, in the Bible to counteract some of Christ's teachings. Yeah, because he was not so up on women. he was kind of a misogynist, okay? If we look at really what he had to say. At the center of it, the mature man. So let's see what we have. What about the mature man in the center of all of this? Yeah, what a surprise. He was what? He was somebody that wanted to create some obstruction. Or this could be Charlemagne, whoever it was that added him to the New Testament. This was somebody that was creating an obstruction from the light. Okay? Strength. So a strong objection, a strong difficulty when it came to the light. Are we starting to see a pattern here? This was put in the Bible by the religious enclave. It wasn't the spiritual enclave of what Christ was teaching. This was the religiosity that wanted to put together the writings of the Bible. So this was, again, basically Pharisees that wanted to what? Control the people. So they went ahead and put him in there to what? When it comes to the teachings of Christ, what happens with Paul? Yeah. So the challenge is unexpected income. The churchiology of the day. Fireworks. The challenge is fireworks. Oh, we're seeing a pattern here. Above it, the nightmare. Okay? The pain, the drama of things unwanted. So this was, again, they didn't like the full message of Christ because it was liberating. Liberating to what? Women, children, etc. And the religiosity of the day wanted to what? Repress. So they chose Saul, Paul, as a way to temper the message of Christ. We can't have this full-blown message of spirituality. So we are going to, again, infiltrate this religiosity of repression in with it, sow these other seeds with it to mitigate some of the message. So we have here, the clarification is about the main male, ending some of these things, okay? This is something that's being struggled with, okay? Being struggled with. And above it, we have a victory. The foundation is, okay, now is this a true light? Was this the main male? Was this about Christ and the higher things? Or was this a way to implement, again, Saul, Paul, as a way to infiltrate stuff and corrupt some of the teachings? But here, I'd say we're struggling with the strength of Christ and ultimately his victory. But the church, again, the challenge was unexpected income, fireworks, people that were in confusion, depression, unhappy with what's coming. So they introduced, again, Paul, Saul of Tarsus, as a way to corrupt some of the message of Christ so they could keep control of the people. Because what was Saul of Tarsus's message? Was all about how you react in church, etc. It was the repressions of the day, a way to put down women, that women should be subject to their husbands, okay, etc., etc., etc. Those things had nothing to do with Christ. They had to do with Paul, Saul of Tarsus, as a way to control and manipulate women, etc. So underneath of this all we have the choices that they made, and these consequences that come out of it, these endings that they tried to put into place. Are we seeing a pattern here? These are all major arcana, okay? For long-term benefit by introducing what? Something new, a new mentality that comes from what? The past. The Pandora's box. Keep a lid on women and their emotions. We have this balancing, juggling when it comes to churchiology. Because what? They wanted to be in control. This was a tactic of control that they rapidly introduced and were giving out to the people piecemeal as a way of what? Action to control, and hanging up some of the ideas when it comes to family and compassion and what was being offered as a way, the message, how to go forward, how to live, what new ideas there were about actions and going forward in life from justice and judgment, or the lack thereof. So again, we'll see what's fully underneath of this, which is like, oh my Lord. I mean, the cards are really telling the tale on this. So again, let's be reminded what's driving all of this under the surface are the choices that were made in implementing this and the karmic consequences of it, trying to end some of the things so that they could have power and control in the religiosity by hanging up and presenting a different view, overturning the justice that was the messages of Christ for judgment, okay? And I think that pretty much tells the tale of what's underneath of this all, of putting in the books of Paul into the Bible. Wow. Even deeper than I thought. So let's go in and we're going to break down the reading. The mature man, when they were putting out the Bible, it was a change. It was about obstruction, light, the strength, okay? But the clarification would be, is this Christ, the higher teachings? Okay? We have the light and the strength, but we have the higher teachings in the end, which is what Christ came to give. He came to give the higher teachings. Now, again, when we went into it, the message for the future, again, the message in the future, they chose to put this book of Paul or Saul of Tarsus in the Bible. Why? They were working on it because they were unhappy with the seeds that were planted by Yeshua ben Joseph or the Christ, because they were liberating, and they didn't want liberation for the future. They wanted what? To control, to obstruct. Okay? So they changed the message. So again, they were unhappy with some of the things that Christ was saying. So they introduced the challenge of unexpected income of fireworks. Okay? Because Saul of Tarsus was of bad health. He had the confusion. He was a bit conniving when it came to his mental ideations. Okay? They had the fireworks of this and the pain and the nightmares of people and their mentality. So they went ahead and charged forward with Paul, Saul of Tarsus, putting it into the Bible to corrupt actually some of the teachings and confuse some of the teachings of Christ. But Christ will have the victory in the end. Okay? So they can try to railroad things, put a fly in the ointment, try to confuse the issues as much as they want, but in the end, Christ will win. Okay, so their only thing that they are accomplishing in this is for the worldly dynamic, and that's it. But other than that, overall, Christ will win, and the church religiosity will be defeated. Yeah. Religiosity is defeated with spirituality, and what Christ came to teach was spirituality, while the church creates religiosity, the bane of man's existence. So let's hear it for true spirituality and Saul of Tarsus, aka Paul. We've heard kind of more of a deaf ear too. And so that's my reading on Paul, Saul of Tarsus, and the church, the religiosity that put together the books of the Bible, and how they attempted to skew and to infiltrate the teachings of Christ. Now, of course, they put some of the teachings of Christ in there, but they also put that seed of doubt in there. And that's the way the dark works. It puts a seed of doubt to confuse people, to confuse the issues. So take Paul out and read the apostles. Read about Yeshua ben Joseph or Jesus the Christ, what he had to say. And then afterwards, go back and read Paul. Read all the things that Paul had to say. And you will see the difference that's coming. That Paul, Saul of Tarsus, was a religious bigot. Okay, basically, a religious bigot who infiltrated and put out this spin when it came to what Christ was teaching. So on that note, I'm going to leave this here. And if you don't believe me, please go back, get your New Testament, and read through it. And verify what is said here in your own mind. Look at it and observe and see the vast difference between what Christ and the apostles were taught and teaching, and what Saul of Tarsus was saying, and what the religious leader of the day that constructed the Bible, the King James Bible is what it's called, what was put in there, and understand why it was put in there. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you online.